Okay, today's daf we're learning is Shabbat Pezayin. Today's shiur is sponsored by Sarah Robinson in memory of her father Moshe Nachum ben Chana Liba and Yaakov Zichrono Livracha. We're in the middle of trying to figure out when exactly Matan Torah happened, and we're going to figure out. We're going to have to determine what day of the week was Rosh Chodesh, and from there we can figure out Rosh Chodesh Sivan. And from there, we can figure out what day of the week Matan Torah happens. We're actually not going to figure out because we're going to have all different opinions. And we're going to try to, what we're going to have today is we're going to start with the difference between Rabbi Yossi and the rabbis. We started with Rabbi Yossi. We'll quickly review it today. And then we're going to basically bring sources that seem to contradict one or the other. That's going to be the whole structure for today. So if we start back at the end of Pevav Amud Bet, we started with Rabbi Yossi, who said it happened on the 7th of the month, right? So 7th, right? And like we said, in Chutz La'aretz, they have Shavuot 2 days, Vav and Zayin, which is very nice because they cover both days. In Israel, we only have it on Vav, which doesn't hold by Rabbi Yossi's opinion. I saw someone yesterday who commented, which is kind of nice, that there's this concept since Shavuot is only 1 day and not a whole week like all the other holidays. However, there's a law of Tashlumin, which is that you can, if you forget to bring the korbanot or you didn't bring them on time, you can bring them the whole week. And that really the whole week is somewhat connected to Shavuot also. That's why we don't say Tachanun for a number of days after Shavuot. So there's this connection, and maybe you can, at least in Israel where they don't have it on Zion, you can at least connect it that it's one of the days of the Tashlumin. So now Rabbi Yossi comes and says, how did this all work out? Okay, if you remember, we talked about that. It says, Bayom Hazeh, they got to Midbar Sinai, and it says, Chodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodeshim. Both times it says, Zeh, when it came to Chodesh Hazeh, Rosh Chodeshim, it was Rosh Chodesh. And therefore, when Bayom Hazeh, they got to Midbar Sinai, that was Rosh Chodesh. Then it says, Zachorit Yom HaShabbat L'Kadsho in the Aseret HaDibur. And just like it said when they got out of Mitzrayim, Zachorit HaYom Hazeh, remember this day, this is the day you got out of Egypt. And that was actually the day they got out of Egypt. So when God says, remember Yom HaShabbat, it must have been, now there's a big jump, it's not so clear, but it must have been that the day God said, remember the day of Shabbat, was Shabbat itself, okay? And therefore, everyone's going to be in agreement that the Torah was given on Shabbat. Like I said, the difference is going to be when was Rosh Chodesh, and therefore which day of the week came out to be, which date was Shabbat. So then we said, the whole machloket kipligam, now 5 lines from the bottom of Pevav Amud Bet, the whole question became, what day was Rosh Chodesh? Rabbi Yossi Savar b'cha b'shabbat ik b'yarcha. It happened on Sunday. Sunday was Rosh Chodesh. U'b'cha b'shabbat lo amar lehu v'lo midi mishum chosha de'orcha. Moshe didn't speak to the people at all because he was too weak, right, after traveling. B'shrei b'shabbat amar lehu atem tulim mamlechet kohanim b'goy kadosh. That's the next thing Moshe says to them. Then amar lehu mitzvat hagbala. Then, Bitzlata, sorry, I skipped the word. On the 3rd day of the week, he told them, stay away from the mountain, right? Make a boundary around the mountain. Now, this is a little bit problematic because if you look at the verses, that actually comes after he tells them to separate from their wives, okay? That the husbands and wives should stay separated. So it's a bit of a strange thing. Why did they say that happened before? We're going to get to that later today. Ba'arba'ah, on the 4th day of the week, Abid Prisha. Now this is how we got to this in the first place. This matches Rabbi Yossi's opinion that they were told to separate on day number 4, which means that how many days are they separating? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 3 days of separation. That's where we learn about the 3 days of separation, that they have to separate for 3 days because Apoletet Shechatzera is going to be Tme'ah for 3 days. Okay, that's Rabbi Yossi's approach. Versus the rabbis, we're going to say it's only 2 days, and that's where Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah gets it from. So according to this, that's how we get to on the 4th day, they were told to separate. Rabbanan Savre, they agree about the order of events. Their one difference is that they say, Bitrei b'Shabbat ik b'yarcha, Rosh Chodesh was on Monday. Bitrei b'Shabbat lo amar lehu v'lo midi, the first day he didn't speak to them because he was tired from the walk, from the traveling. Mishum chulsha de'orcha. Bitzlata amar lu v'atem tiyuli. Then they're told, you're going to be to me a mamlechet kohanim and a goy kadosh, right? Ba'arba'ah amar luhu mitzvat hagbala. On the 4th day, they were told to separate from each other. Separate from the mountain. right, to make a boundary around the mountain. V'chamisha avit prisha, and on the 5th day, they were told to separate. So if they're told on the 5th day to separate, then we end up with how many days? Only 2 days of separation. And that's where Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah gets it from. Okay, we're going to start now with a list of questions, and we're going to a little bit ping pong back and forth. We're just going to bring source after source after source that seems to indicate either like one or the other until we finally get to our last source for today, which is going to be a question on both of them, where we're going to have a count. Okay, it's interesting that there's a lot of counts about these days and how it worked and how it all came about. A lot of what matters is how many, first of all, we start with Matan Torah, with getting out of Mitzrayim, what day of the week was that? And from there we get to, well, how many days were in the month of Nisan and how many days were in the month of Iyar? Hebrew months can either have 30 days or 29 days, right? They're either called a Chodesh Chaser or a Chodesh Maleh, right? There's no average month. It's either less or more, right? A full month or a less full month. So it's either going to be 29 days or 30. Generally, in our calendar, Nisan is always Maleh, 30 days. Iyar is always Chaser, 29 days, right? That just happened. We have 1 day of Rosh Chodesh, right? When there's a 30-day month, you have 2 days of Rosh Chodesh, both on day number 30 and on day number 1. So let's go on and let's see how this works out. So the first source is going to be a question on Rabbi Yossi. So just to remind you, Rabbi Yossi says Rosh Chodesh was on Sunday, in which case, when they got the Torah on Shabbat, it was Zayin Sivan and not Vav Sivan. So it was the 7th day of Sivan. Meitivei. So here comes our question. Meitivei always means we're going to have a question on an Amora from a Tanaitic source. Okay, so here actually it's not exactly because Rabbi Yossi and the rabbis, this is a good exception to the rule. Meitivei is here, in this case, it's a question from a Tanaitic source on a Tana. B'kidashtem hayom u'machar, kashya l'Rabbi Yossi. So now they say, okay, it says, B'kidashtem hayom u'machar. Kidashtem means you should separate. Like Kodesh is always to separate. You should separate for the husbands from the wives. Hayom u'machar. That's what it says in the pasuk there, right? Vayomer Hashem Moshe lecha la'am b'kidashta hayom u'machar v'chibsu simlotam. Right? They should sanctify themselves and they should wash their clothing. So now what do you see? How many days? Hayom u'machar. That's 2 days. According to Rabbi Yossi, there were 3 days. That doesn't seem to make much sense. So, Amar lecha Rabbi Yossi, Yom echad hosif Moshe mida'ato. Fascinating. Hashem said, separate for 2 days, and Moshe said, wait a minute, we should add an extra day. Okay, so now we're going to have to figure out why did Moshe want to add an extra day, and did God agree with this entirely or not? So again, according to Rabbi Yossi's count, God wanted them to separate Wednesday and Thursday, because remember on Wednesday they were told to separate. So Wednesday and Thursday. But Moshe said, let's add Friday also. So now we're going to see Tanya, as we see in the following Braita, Shlosha dvarim asa Moshe midato. This wasn't, by the way, the only time this happened. There were 3 times where Moshe initiated something. V'iskim hakadosh baruch hu imo. Okay, and God agreed with him. Here we go with the 3 things, and then we'll go into each one. Hosif yom midato. So that was our case. Peresh min ha'isha. He separated from his wife Tzipora after Matan Torah. We'll talk about this. V'shiberet haluchot. And he broke the luchot. Right? God didn't tell him to do either one of those 3 things. Moshe decided to do them. And God agreed with him. So now we're going to see why did Moshe decide to do the following things, and how do we know that God agreed with him? Hosif yom midato, my Darish. What was he thinking when he added 1 day? Well, he said like this: Darish hayom u'machar, hayom ki machar. God said, separate today and tomorrow. Now, when they were standing there, it must have been during the day of the 4th day, meaning of Wednesday. Standing there on Wednesday, and God says, separate for 2 days. Now, if you separate Wednesday, you're only separating for part of Wednesday because part of Wednesday already passed. The day in the Jewish calendar starts by the night. So just like the next day, which was Thursday, was going to be a day and a night with it, right? So hayom u'machar, ma machar leilo imo, meaning Thursday included Wednesday night. So therefore, af hayom leilo imo. So Wednesday should also include Tuesday night. What's the problem? Laila da'ida nafkale. Tuesday night had already passed. It was too late to tell them to separate. So therefore, shmamina treyome levar meha'idna. Therefore, he concluded it must be 2 days, not including the day we're up to. So therefore, he said, not just Wednesday, but it must be Thursday and Friday also. So therefore, he adds an extra day. So according to Rabbi Yossi, remember, Rabbi Yossi has a problem with the text. It says, Hayom u'machar. So Hayom u'machar, he determines to be not only Hayom u'machar, but Hayom is only a part day. So we need an extra day. We're going to add a third day. Now, how do we know that God agreed with him? If really God meant Hayom u'machar, Wednesday and Thursday, then when should we have gotten the Torah? Friday morning. But we already learned that the Torah was given on Shabbat. So the fact that God didn't rest his presence on the mountain until Shabbat shows that God must have agreed with what Moshe did. Again, this is only according to Rabbi Yossi that it happened on Wednesday. Hashem said, tell the people, separate. Okay? This is all if it happened on Wednesday. If it happened on Thursday, obviously Hayom u'machar is Thursday, Friday, and then you end up with Shabbat. You got the Torah. Okay? So that's the first one. Okay. Okay. Now we're about 15 lines from the top. He separated from Tzipora. My Darish, what did he say? Why did he decide to separate from his wife? This, by the way, comes up where it's one of the Parshaniyot. There's always a big debate when Miriam and Aaron in this week's Parsha talk about Moshe. They speak Lashon Hara. Miriam speaks Lashon Hara to Aaron about Moshe, about Isha Kushit Asher Lakach, and it's not so clear what they're talking. What was the Lashon Hara? One of the interpretations, and it's based on this Gemara, or this Gemara is based on that interpretation, is that what were they doing? They were talking about that Moshe separated from his wife, and they were saying that's not a good thing. Why did he leave his wife, basically? So first, let's see why he left his wife, and then we'll see how we know that God agreed with him about this. Nasa kal v'chomer. Okay, he said he made a kal v'chomer ba'atzmo. He made his own kal v'chomer. By the way, we're allowed to make our own kal v'chomers. Okay, that's something. It's one of the things that you're allowed to do. Let's say a gzera shava, for example, you have to have a masoret about. But a kal v'chomer you can make on your own. Amar. Uma Yisrael shelo dibra shechina imahem ela sha'a achat v'kava lahem zman. So the Torah, God, the presence of God only spoke to the people once ever. When was that? Matan Torah. And when they received the Torah. And there was a designated time when that was going to happen. And what happened? Amra Torah vayunu nechonim l'shloshet yamim, right? Be ready for the third day. I'm going to come down and you have to separate. So I'll take shu, right? Don't go near your wives. Ani shekol sha'a v'sha'a shechina medaberet imi. Now, God can speak to me at any time, whenever. Ve'eno kaveh lizman, and I don't even know when it's going to happen. So therefore, Allah hakama v'kama, all the more so, I need to separate from my wife at all times, because at any time the Shekhinah can be talking to me, I have to be tahor. I can't be impure, and therefore, he's separated from his wife forever, basically. Uminal diskim hakadosh baruch hu al yado. How do we know that God agreed with this? Dichtiv lech emor lahem. By the way, this is not something that, I notice this is very specific to Moshe, only because of Moshe. This isn't something that Judaism believes in, and it should be something that's done. And in fact, it's probably one of the reasons why, according to the Parshanut, that's why Miriam was talking about Moshe, because it was seen as something very atypical and didn't look like a good thing. So, how do we know that Hashem agreed? We're going to have two different proofs. Dichtiv, okay, when Moshe recounts the giving of the Torah on Har Sinai and Sefer Dvarim, it says in the Psukim there, Lech emor lahem shuva lachem lo alechem. After Matan Torah happened, God said to everyone, right? He says to Moshe, tell the people, go back to your tents. Your tents is always back to your wives, meaning you separated from them, now go back. And then what does it say immediately after? Right after that, it says, Va'ata po amodi madi. But you stay with me. That means you don't get to go back to your tents. So basically, that's a proof that Hashem agreed with Moshe. Okay, it actually sounds from there like Hashem told Moshe, but I think it's more that Moshe had already decided, and then God said, well, okay, stay with me. V'ita Amre, and some people learn it from this section about Miriam and Aharon. When Miriam speaks Lashon Hara to Aaron about Moshe, God says to them, what were you doing? And then he says, Pe el pe adaber bo. Moshe is different because I speak to him pe el pe. I speak to him mouth to mouth, right? With something. So basically, what's he saying? Right? Umare ulo b'chidot, right? In other words, not the same way. Tmonat Hashem yabit. He sees the image of God. And then God says to them, Umadua lo yaretem ledaber ba'ovdi b'Moshe. And right, he's so unique. How could you have spoken about him like this? But what do they darshan? If this all had to do with that he's separated from his wife, God is saying, yes, he's separated from his wife because he speaks to me pel peh. And therefore, he can't be with his wife at all times, right? He has to separate from her. And that was the way of proving, yes, Moshe was right about it. Okay. Third option, third idea. By the way, remember, I'll just remind you of the structure. We all started this out because we were stuck with Rabbi Yossi. How could it be how could Rabbi Yossi say 3 days of hafrasha, of separation, when the pasuk itself said 2? And he basically says it's true the pasuk said 2 because that was God speaking, but Moshe decided to add an extra day. And now, because of that, we got off on this tangent, but we'll get back to our topic soon. Shiber taluchot, my darish. What was he thinking when he broke the luchot? Amar, uma Pesach, shu achad mitaryag mitzvot. Pesach is one of the 613 mitzvot. Amra Torah b'chol ben nechar lo yochal bo. So it says anyone who's not, now ben nechar, they translate not just as not Jewish, but someone who doesn't keep the mitzvot can't eat the korban. Okay, someone who's considered a mumal, who doesn't keep the Torah at all, they can't eat from the korban Pesach. Now, right, this was something, you have to pick something that must have happened before Matan Torah, and that was the laws about Pesach. HaTorah kula kan v'Yisrael mumarim alacha kama v'kama. Here I have the whole Torah in my hands. And the Jewish people are, according to this text, mumarim, according to the text of the Steinsaltz, it's in the Koran, is mishumadim. Okay? The whole people are against God at this point. They're right. They're worshiping avodah zarah. So of course, alacha kama v'kama, that I need to break the luchot. I mean, they can't, just like they can't eat from the korban Pesach, they certainly can't have the Torah if this is what they're doing. And therefore, he broke the luchot. How do we know that God agreed with him about breaking the luchot? Shenemar asher shibarta. Okay, again, this is in Sefer Shmot, actually, when God tells him, go write 2 new luchot, and it says, and I'll write on those luchot hadvarim asher ayu ala luchot harishonim asher shibarta. Now the word asher means that you broke. Okay, asher shibarta, that you broke. But the word asher in Hebrew also means la asher, the word to say, yes, it's okay what you did, right? You need an shiur for school, a permission slip, okay, to give permission. So basically, they darshan this as yasher koach sheshibarta, right? Good that you did. Asher is, God was asher, he was permitting what Moshe did and saying it was okay what you did. Some people also say it's proven from the fact that we put them in the Aron Abrit, right? They kept them in the Aron all those years. If it was a bad thing Moshe did, we would have wanted to throw them out entirely, right? And therefore, it also proves that it was okay that what Moshe did. Okay, we're finished with that whole section of the 3 things. It reminds me, by the way, of there's a list of things that Moshe had to ask God about that he didn't know, and he had like Pesach Sheni and Bnot Tzlachad, and right? It's like it's another type of list like that where we have things that we don't know. You know, it's these exceptions to the rule that either God didn't say, right, and Moshe decided to initiate. Okay, moving on. Tashma. V'hayu nechonim layom hashlishi. Again, we have another source that says you should be ready for the 3rd day. On the 3rd day, you're going to get the Torah, not the 3rd day of the month. This is the 3rd day from when they were told to separate from their wives. So, kasha le Rabbi Yossi. So we say, this sounds like a difficulty to Rabbi Yossi. Again, it sounds like you don't need 3 full days. Ha'amrinan yom echad osif Moshe midato. What do you mean? We already answered that. We said, it's true, God said on the 3rd day, but it ended up being the 4th day because Moshe decided to add another day. That's not a question. Another source, Tashma. Shlishi, the 3rd day of that section that we're talking about, when they got to the Har on the 1st day, right, until the 6th of the 7th day when they got the Torah, they say in this Braita, Shlishi, the 3rd day was Shlishi b'chodesh u'Shlishi b'Shabbat. It was both the 3rd day of the month and the 3rd day of the week, meaning the 3rd day of the month of Sivan came out on a Tuesday, which would match whose opinion? It would match Rabbi Yossi, that Rosh Chodesh was on Sunday, so 1 is Sunday, right? And then it's going to obviously match the days of the week, and the 7th day is going to come out on Shabbat. Kashya Rabbanan. So this is a source that's difficult. Until now, we kept bringing difficulties on Rabbi Yossi. Now we're bringing difficulty on Rabbanan, who said that Rosh Chodesh was on Monday, which means Tuesday would have been the 2nd day of the month and not the 3rd day. Amar lecha Rabbanan, Hamane Rabbi Yossi. That doesn't bother me. You could just say that Braita is Rabbi Yossi's opinion, and I hold by something else. Shlishi lamai. So now they say, why was the first 3 days, did they have any importance? That the Braita is talking about the 3rd day. What was unique about the first 3 days? Lichiditanya, as we see in the following Braita, Vayashav Moshe et divrei ha'am al Hashem, uchtiv vayaged Moshe et divrei ha'am al Hashem. So here, there's some trouble in the psukim, and this is why we're going to learn that the mitzvah Hagbala, which was written after the mitzvah of Prisha, must have been before. Because it says in the verses, okay, I'll read some of the psukim. It says, Vaya'anu kol ha'am yachdav, they all answer, Vayamru kol asher diber Hashem naseh. Right? We'll do whatever God says. Vayashav Moshe et divrei ha'am al Hashem, and then God brings the words of the people to Hashem. He's the middleman. Vayomer Hashem al Moshe, hinei anochi ba elecha ba'av ha'anan ba'avur yishma ha'am b'dabri imach. I'm going to come down in the anan. V'gam b'cha ya'aminu la'olam, and then they'll believe, they'll trust in you forever. Vayaged Moshe et divrei ha'am al Hashem. And then it says that Moshe told the words of the nation to God. Now, this is very strange. It should be God told the words of Hashem to the nation, right? There's something missing here, okay? And there's no real commandment here, like for example, separate from your wives or something like that. So what transpired here? So the Gemara is going to ask that question. There's something missing in the verses here. So here goes the Braita. Vayashav Moshe et divrei ha'am al Hashem, uchtiv vayaged Moshe et divrei ha'am al Hashem, right? So it seems like Moshe he basically told God something the nation said, and then the next pasuk, he said another thing that the nation said, and there's really nothing that transpired there. Ma amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu Moshe. What did God tell Moshe to tell the people at that point? Uma amar lehem Moshe liYisrael. And then what did Moshe then? Right, all these things must have happened. Hashem must have told Moshe something to tell the people. The people must have told Moshe something, right? Moshe would have then told the people. Uma amru Yisrael Moshe. They must have said something back to Moshe. Uma yishiv Moshe lifnei hagvura. And what did Moshe then go back to God about? There's obviously something missing. So what are the answer? Zo mitzvat hagbala. It must be that what it says later, and we always learn that ein mukdamu mu'achar b'Torah, what it says a few psukim later about hagbel et hahar, that must have been the commandment that God told Moshe in between those two, Vayashav and Vayaged, told them that. Moshe went and told the people, hagbel et hahar. They said, okay, no problem. And Moshe brought them back to Hashem and said, okay, the people said they'll do that, no problem. Okay, that's Divrei Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda. Okay, that's one approach. So I just want to remind you what we're up to again. We're trying to figure out this Braita that said Shlishi. The third day was the third day of the month, which was also the third day of the week. Why is the Braita pointing out the third day? What was unique about the third day? So according to this, on the third day, they were commanded Hagbel et Tahar, and that's the proof, by the way, for where we started today, where we said, if you remember, we started off with Rabbi Yossi. The first day they got to the Har. The second day they were told, you're going to be Mamlechet Kohanim B'Goy Kadosh. The third day they were told Hagbel et Tahar. Now we have the source. But now we're going to have two other opinions that don't agree with this, and the think that the first 3 days were spent doing something. Okay, and here they're going to say, what were the first 3 days spent doing? Two different approaches. Okay, and this has to do with educational approaches. What's the best way to get the people to keep the Torah? How do you start? Okay, so Rebbe Omer, B'tchila peresh onsha. First, Moshe spent time talking about all the punishments in the Torah to scare them. Right? This is serious. Dichtiv vayashav Moshe. How do they learn it? Well, they're going to basically darshan vayashav and vayaged. Vayashav is going to be what happened the first 3 days, and vayaged is after that. So the first 3 days, Moshe spent time telling them all about all the punishments. So here goes. How do we get this from Vayashav? Shemishavivim da'ato shel adam. They're things that make you a little bit crazy, right? They get you worked up. This is like we talked about the bodies of the women were hot because they're worked up about mitzvot, and they cause the shechat zera, the semen, to rot, right, to spoil. So here also, right, the punishments is what gets you worked up. Okay, that was Vayashav. Vayashav milashon shemishavivim. Ulevasof peresh matan schara. After that, then Moshe started telling them, oh, there's all these amazing things in the Torah. You get rewards, you get all these benefits. Dichtiv, where do we get that from? Vayaged Moshe. What's Vayaged? Dvarim shemoshchin libo shel adam ke'agada. Agadot, right? It's like learning Gemara. You get the halachic stuff. It's very complicated. When you get to the Agadot, the stories, that's the best part, right? So, Vayaged milashon haggadah, to tell a story. Then he told them all the good things, okay? So that's a teaching method. I remember I had a teacher a long time ago who told me, you have to start out really tough in the beginning of the year. As a teacher, I remember when I started teaching, he told me, to be really tough, really mean. Then you soften up, right? And then they get serious. They know to take you seriously. I was never good at that. I took the opposite approach. No, the opposite approach is first tell all the rewards, The first 3 days he spent telling all the nice stuff. Dichtiv. And now they're going to darshan the words, the exact opposite. Vayashav Moshe, dvarim shemishivim da'ato shel adam. They bring you mishiv nefesh, they bring you happiness. Ulevaself peresh onsha. Then he told them all the punishments. Dichtiv vayagam Moshe dvarim shekashin la'adam kigidim. They're very hard, like your sinews in your body. Lashon Hagadan, this comes up in a number of places in the Gemara, that Hayaged is kashet. Okay, then he got serious and tough with them. Right, first he said, oh, come get the Torah, it's so beautiful, and you kind of get them in. And once they're in, well, then you say, by the way, there's some hard stuff also. It's not so simple. So that was the second approach. So these were all three parshaniyot, just to remind you where we're up to. Again, today we keep getting off. We have to keep on track. 3 reasons to how we darshan the first 3, like what was unique about the third day or the first 3 days. Right? The first one was about what was unique about the third day, that they basically, and all dealing with this problem in the pasuk, Vayashev and then Vayaged, that Moshe brought back words of the people, and it wasn't clear what words of the people he brought back. So that was, the first answer was, it was mitzvah Hagbala happened in the middle, out of order. The second 2 answers were, no, the first 3 days Moshe spent doing this, the second 3 days he spent, or after that, he then spent the opposite. And it depends where you go, which opposite you get to. Next source, Tashma. Shishi b'chodesh. Shishi b'Shabbat. Just like we had a drasha, Shlishi, the third day was the third day of the week, which was also the third day of it was the third day of the month, was also the third day of the week, was Tuesday. Likewise, the 6th day was the 6th day of the month, which was also the 6th day of the week, which also seems to match Rabbi Yossi, and is a difficulty for the rabbis who said that Rosh Chodesh was on Monday, not on Sunday. So, Kasha Rabbanan. So again, they answer the same way, Hanami Rabbi Yossi, right? That's fine, that Braita just holds like Rabbi Yossi. Now they want to know, why is this Braita talking about the 6th day? What was unique about the 6th day? Shishi Lamai. What was if the Braita is saying it was the 6th day to something, they must have been counting 6 from some important event. So what important event? Rava Amar Lechanayatan, Rav Acha Bar Yaakov Amar Limasa'an. Okay, it was either the 6th day of their encampment or the 6th day of their travels. Okay, if you look at the verses there, okay, the verses there start off, the first pasuk says, okay, this is what we read on Shavuot, B'chodesh hashlishi latzet b'nei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim, b'yom hazeh ba'u midbar Sinai, okay, on the 3rd month they got, of getting out of Egypt, they went to Midbar Sinai, Vayis'u me'Refidim, they traveled from Refidim, Vayavo Midbar Sinai, they get to Midbar Sinai, Vayachanu b'midbar, and they camped in the desert, Vayichan sham Yisrael neged hahar, right, the famous song, and they camped there opposite the mountain. Now, what was the important part? Was the important part the camping, or was the important part the traveling? So when we count 6 days, was it 6 days from the travels, or 6 days from the camping? So kamiflage, what's really the root of their machloket? So the root of their machloket is some bigger issue. The Shabbat de Mara. Before that, they were in Mara. The question is, did they get the commandment for? Everyone agrees that they were commanded about Shabbat in Mara. It was one of these mitzvot they got before Matan Torah, that the mitzvah of Shabbat. The question is, how much of Shabbat did they get in Mara? Now, if they got all of Shabbat in Mara, then they obviously weren't doing any malacha on Shabbat before. Now, if they got there on Sunday, so now it means, when were they traveling? It means if they couldn't travel on Shabbat, they must have traveled on Sunday, okay? Because it says, by Yisume Refidim, now you could say maybe that was a few days ago, but if they got to the mountain on Sunday, then it must be they traveled on Sunday. If theoretically they could have traveled on Shabbat, then it could be they traveled on Shabbat, arrived there at the end of Shabbat, let's say, and then they camped on Sunday. So it depends what you hold about the Shabbat and Mara. Now, how do we know that they received the Torah? They received, not the Torah, but the mitzvah of Shabbat in Mara. Dichtiv, as it says in the Aseret HaDibrot, the ones in Dvarim, it says, Shamor et Yom HaShabbat l'kadsho, ka'asher tzivcha Hashem Elokecha. Like God commanded you. That means God commanded you sometime in the past. So that must have been in Mara. V'amar Rav Yehuda Amarav, ka'asher tzivcha b'Mara. He understands that pasuk to say, you already were commanded about it before you got the 10 Commandments. Now, what's the machloket? Mar Savar, and this is going to go back to something we saw a while ago. Shabbat ifkud, atchumin lo ifkud. They were commanded about the issue of Shabbat, but they weren't commanded about the issue of Tchum Shabbat, going outside the Tchum, which means that they were allowed to be traveling on Shabbat because they didn't get Tchumim. Remember we talked about with the guy who's stranded on a desert island, doesn't know when it's Shabbat. There's the mitzvah lo taseh, right? You can't ever do malachot on any day. How is Shabbat unique? We said because of Kiddush and Havdalah. And then we said this issue of Tchumin right? We said we allow him, even though he can't do any of the malachot, he is allowed to walk. Remember Tosfot said that? Because otherwise, how is he ever going to get home if he's only allowed to walk? How's he ever going to find his way and stop being mechalel Shabbatot? So we allow him to basically walk beyond the tchum, even though maybe it's Shabbat. So we talked about the tchumin seems to be a whole separate issue from all, right? There's malachot, there's lotas says, there's ases, positive commandments, and then there's this third category of tchumin. So what they got mara was everything else, but they didn't get tchumin. So if they didn't get tchumin, then it means they traveled on Shabbat, which means that the sixth day was the sixth day to their encampment and not to their traveling. Umar Savar, the other opinion says, a tchumin nami ibku. No, they were also commanded about tchumin, and therefore they didn't travel on Shabbat. They traveled on Sunday. So on that day, they both traveled and camped, and therefore the sixth day was counting from their travels. Tashma, another source. That was just an aside, because we brought in this source to question Rabbanan. We answered it, oh, that source is Rabbi Yossi, and then we just wanted to understand the source better. Why was the Braita talking about the sixth day? What was unique about, again, it's a little tricky. It doesn't really talk about what was unique about the sixth day. It's just kind of saying they're counting six from what was the important thing that happened. And again, that relates to another different machloket about what commandments of Shabbat they received in Maha. Tashma, another source that we're going to bring to contradict. Nisan shebo yatsu Yisrael miMitzrayim ba'arba'asar shachatu pischehen. Okay, now we're going back to Nisan. On the year they got out of Egypt, so on the 14th day, shachatu pischehen, they sacrificed the Korban Pesach. B'chamishasar yatzu, on the 15th at night, they start on the 15th, the night of the 15th, they start going out. Ula erev laku b'chorot, and then at night was makat b'chorot. Now this sounds very strange. It should be the reverse. They first laku b'chorot, right? God killed all the firstborns, and then they left. So they question this Braita. They stop and they say, wait a minute, la erev salkadatach ela mi ba'erev, before nightfall, right? Before they got out, laku b'chorot. So that's what they mean. Okay, it means mi ba'erev, before, right before they left. First they had b'chorot and then they left. Here comes the important part for our purposes. V'oto hayom chamishi b'shabbat haya. Okay, now we need to start doing all these calculations. If that was Thursday, okay, the day they got out of Mitzrayim was Thursday, right? That's why Shabbat Agadol, Yud Nisan happened on Shabbat, okay? And then Thursday was the day they got out of Egypt. I'm sorry, Thursday. Mida chamisha asar b'Nisan, chamisha b'Shabbat. So now let's do our calculation. The 15th of the month is Shabbat. Reish yarcha de'iyar Shabta. If the 15th is Thursday, then what happens? So count 2 more weeks. Thursday is going to be the 29th, 14 days. Okay, this is simple calculation. If the 29th is Thursday, 30 days in Nisan, which we said. So 2 more days you're going to count. You're going to get to Shabbat, which is Rosh Chodesh Iyar. But when we say Rosh Chodesh, we mean the first of Iyar. If the first of Iyar is Shabbat, Reish Yarcha de Sivan, and we already said Iyar is Chaser, it's 29 days. So the 29th is also going to be on Shabbat. So when's Rosh Chodesh going to be? On Sunday. Reish Yarcha de Sivan, Chad b'Shabbat. Okay, it will be on Sunday. So Kasha l'Rabbanan. Again, we have a difficulty on the rabbis who said Rosh Chodesh was on a Monday. So Amr l'cha Rabbanan, Iyar dahi shata ibure ibruha. That year, they didn't have a set calendar. They went by the moon. They didn't see the new moon on the first day. So they ended up having Iyar have 30 days, which pushes it off 1 day, which gets you to Monday. Okay, that's their opinion. But now they say Tashma, but there's a source that says Diloi Brua Nisan. Dafka Nisan wasn't Mu'bal. Diloi Brua, period. I read that wrong. They were Me'aber. They didn't add Ibor is, right, like a pregnant woman is Mu'beret, right? It means the month wasn't pregnant, meaning they didn't have an extra day in Iyar that year. So what do they say? Well, Nisan shebo yatsu Yisrael miMitzrayim ba'arba'asar shachatu pischehem b'chamishasar yatsu ula'erev laku b'chorot. So now they're bringing another source. So again, Nisan that year, this is all the same. On the 14th, they slaughtered the Pesach. Then on the 15th, they left, and then at night happened Makat b'chorot. Again, they stop and say la'erev salkadatach ela'ema mi ba'erev laku b'chorot, meaning beforehand. And again, it was Thursday. Hishlim Nisan, meaning it was a full month. Shabbat. So again, we get to Shabbat. This is all the same of Rosh Chodesh Iyar. Chaser Iyar v'ira Sivan liyop echa b'Shabbat. So here you see Lo ibruha, because this source tells you exactly that there was no extra day in Iyar, meaning Iyar was only 29 days, which again gets you to Rosh Chodesh. So this proves that you can't answer what they tried to answer for the rabbis. That year, Iyar had 30 days. Can't be because the Braita says not. Kashya Rabbanan. So what does he simply answer? The same answer he keeps giving every time we bring a contradiction against the rabbis. Hamane Rabbi Yossi. That source is Rabbi Yossi, not the rabbis. I didn't say that exactly right. I said the rabbis keep answering. It's not the rabbis. It's the Gemara, right? The rabbis are no longer here. These are Tanaitic sources the Amoraim are dealing with. And the Gemara says, don't worry. He can just say, I don't hold by that source. Amar Rav Papa. Now Rav Papa brings another source. Tashma. Vayisuma Elim, vayavo kol adat b'nei Yisrael, b'chamisha yom l'chodesh hasheni. Okay, so now it says, right, they left Elim. This is in Shmot Tetzayin. This is before Matan Torah. They left Elim. They all come to Midbar Sin, asher ben Elam u'ben Sinai. B'chamisha yom l'chodesh hasheni l'tzeitam me'eretz Mitzrayim. On the 15th day of Iyar, okay, they get to Midbar Sin. So now they say, Oto hayom Shabbat haya. This day that they get there was Shabbat. How do we know? Dichtiv uboker ritem et kvod Hashem. It says in the morning you're going to seek kvod Hashem. Uchtiv sheshet yomim tilgatu. And then it says 6 days you're going to gather the man. This is all about the man. And then on the 7th day, you're going to not be able to take the man. So they basically say, because it says boker ritem, it must have been already Shabbat. Okay, so you're going to see in the morning, right? You're not going to get the man. So on the 15th day, that was Shabbat. So again, let's go through. If the 15th is Shabbat, count another 2 weeks, you get to 29 is Shabbat. And then again, Iyar has only 29 days. So Rosh Chodesh is going to come out on Sunday. Resh Yarcha Desivan, Chad b'Shabbat. So again, Kashya l'Rabbanan, difficult for the rabbis. Again, what's the rabbis going to say? Amar l'cha Rabbanan, now this is interesting. We already rejected this, but again, they say, no, right? Remember, they said we rejected Ibrua because we said this is Braita, but we said, no, we don't care. That Braita doesn't hold like him. In other words, Rabbanan are going to have to hold that there were 30 days in Iyar that year. There's no other way around it. Although we'll see, maybe with another count, they're going to actually give a different answer. Amar le Rav Chavivi mechozanai le Rav Ashi. Rav Chaviva from the city of Mechoza says to Rav Ashi, Tashma, here's another source. Okay, now we're going to talk about the following year. Okay, we know how many years are how many days are in a year. There's 354 days in a year in the lunar calendar, unless there's a leap year. So now they're going to say, based on the next year's calculations, we could figure out what the first year was. So there we go. Now we're going to the first month of the second year. This was all the first year where they got out of Egypt. Now we're in the second year when they put up the Mishkan. Tana, there's a Braita about that day. Oto Yom Natal Esef Atarot. There were 10 new things that happened, or 10 crowns, 10 things that happened on that day. Rishon L'Maseh Breshit. First of all, it was the first day of Maseh Breshit, meaning it happened on Sunday. Okay, that's the only important part for our purposes. This happened on Sunday, which, by the way, this gives you a little bit of an inkling into why we're so concerned with what day of the week things were. Things that happen on Sunday are unique. Why are they unique, right? We don't have any special sanctity to Sunday. Our sanctity is in Shabbat. But if it happens on Sunday, there's something about it's matching creation. Creation of the world started on Sunday. If you get to Midbar Sinai on Sunday and it ends on Shabbat, right, it's almost like they had a week of like the creation of the world. It was kind of like all happening again. And this connects to the Mishkan and to Shabbat. Like if you think, what's this doing here? This is all we keep connected. Shabbat, the Mishkan, the creation of the Mishkan was like our own creation of the world. And they connect these concepts. So it makes sense that they want to say the Mishkan, the first day Ukama Mishkan was on, the Mishkan was put up on Sunday. So what are the other 10 things? So the other 9 things. Rishon l'Nesiim was the first time the Nesiim brought Korbanot to the Mikdash, right, from Parshat Naso. Rishon l'Keuna, the first day the Kohanim operated in the Mikdash. Otherwise, they were working, it was the Bechorim, the firstborns. Rishon l'Avodah, first time they were doing actual work in the Mishkan. Rishon l'Yeridat ha'esh, fire came down from the heavens. Rishon l'Achilat Kodashim, the first time they were eating. Now, they did eat Korbanot before, but here they mean Kodshim Kalim, right? Before that, it was only the Kohanim or the Bechorim that were able to eat it, but the foods like the Shlamim that people can eat, that happened the first time on this day. Rishon l'Shikun Shechina, the presence of God rested there. Rishon levarechet Yisrael, the Berkat Kohanim, the priest blessed the people. Rishon leisur habamot, at that point, everything outside the Mishkan was forbidden. Rishon lechodashim, it was the first month of the year. And then, so now, that was the 10 things. Now let's go back. Umi deresh yarcha denisan dehave shata, dehai shata, if that year it was chab b'Shabbat, happened on Sunday, then de'eshtekad b'daled b'Shabbat, then the year before it must have been on Wednesday, because if there's 354 days in a year, right, we're going to say that's going to be off by every year. You're going to have a difference of 4 days, because, right, it's basically 350 plus another 4. Everything's going to be off by 4 days. Titania, as it says in the following, bright. Again, they don't prove it from mathematics, simple mathematics, but they say, Achirim omrim, ein ben atzeret la'atzeret, ein ben Rosh Hashanah l'Rosh Hashanah, ela arba'a yamim bilvad. That there was one extra day, because in a Shana Mu'beret, we add a month of 29 days. So 29 is 4 weeks plus an extra day. So it pushes everything off an extra day. It'll be 5 days. So if it's 4 days later, the upcoming year, every year it's going to be 4 days later, because of the extra 4 days, right, of 354 is divisible by 7 with a remainder of 4. Every year it's going to be 4 days. In a leap year, it's going to actually be 5. So then, what day is it going to happen? If Rosh Chodesh Nisan was on Sunday, right, then what's going to happen? So, Havale Resh Chodesh Iyar Male Shabta. Rosh Chodesh Iyar is going to be on Erev Shabbat. Okay, now we're back to this. So this year, it started on Wednesday, Rosh Chodesh, on the first year. And by the way, this contradicts. If the first year, the first day of the month of Nisan was Wednesday, then 2 weeks later on the 15th is going to come out not on Thursday, like we said, but on Wednesday. And that's going to push everything a day earlier, because everything was based on that the day they left Egypt was a Thursday. According to this version, the day they left Egypt was a Wednesday, which pushes everything a day earlier, which means instead of being on Shabbat, it's going to be Erev Shabbat. And then they're going to say, Kashya bein Rabbi Yossi bein Rabbanan, because Rabbi Yossi said it was Sunday, Rabbanan said it was Monday, and according to this version, it's going to be on Shabbat, Rosh Chodesh Sivan, which means the Torah was given, well then you have to decide, was it given on the 6th or the 7th, but whatever it is, it's off by a day. So what do they say? Even though I said every year has 354 days, actually it could theoretically have less. Since they did the Kiddush HaChodesh based on the new moon, it could theoretically have, and there's a whole debate in different places in the Gemara, whether you could potentially have. Normally it's 6 whole months and 6 chaser months, 629 day and 630. Sometimes it's a little different, balanced off by 1. Sometimes it could be off by 2 even. So they're basically going to say that year there were either 353 days or 352 days, and that accounts for Rabbi Yossi or the rabbis. So then they say, the Rabbi Yossi Shiva Chaserin Avid, there were 7 months that were 29 days, which makes it a day, right? It pushes everything off. The Rabbanan, Hamisha Chaserin. Okay, Shmona Chaserin. There were 8 months that were 29-day months in that year after Matan Torah, which means you were less a day, which means that the day of the following year was a day, right? There was not a hefresh of 4 from year to year. There was a hefresh of either 3 or 2, and that gets us to the days we need either for the rabbis or for Rabbi Yossi. Okay, we'll end with our complicated counts here, and we'll pick up with more of this tomorrow.